Hello friends and welcome. My name is Steve Willis and I'm delighted to be here today as your host on this webinar where we're looking at the challenging paper Advanced Performance Management. On our webinar today we'll look at tips and techniques for finding exam success, how to earn marks in APM. I'd like to look at 4 things with you today. I'd like to look at the new examiner's report and talk about the importance of reviewing this document in the coming weeks before you sit APM. Let's go into the document and find some of the important advice that the exam team is giving, and let's look at examples of this in the practice platform, what to do, what not to do. We'll be talking about time management and other exam technique guidance throughout our time, and then I'd like to take your questions at the end. A little bit about me before we get started. Well, I'm an ACCA member. I'm originally from the States. Now I live in Europe, in the Czech Republic, and I've been helping people like you pass your exams for about 20 years now, face-to-face and most recently on the internet. And here in the Czech Republic, we've been working with the computer-based exams since 2016. I really think that was a great move, and I love the CBE environment. I'm also a regular contributor to both Teach and Student Accountant magazine. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer and a Six Sigma Green Belt. Let's jump in and get started. Let's look at the new format examiner's report. I have the latest examiner's report open here on my computer, and if it looks a little bit different, that's because it is different. The format has been redesigned to make it more user-friendly, and it is more user-friendly. Right off the bat, we see a table of contents broken down, general comments, specific comments, sections of the exam. So that's very useful. And when we go through the document, we're going to find general advice and specific advice. For example, right here, examining team is telling us that the APM level verbs analyze, evaluate, assess are not the same thing as describing something, okay? That is a very important lesson to learn. Not understanding the verbs is a root cause of failure for many. Let's take, for example, radio frequency ID tags, one of the technology topics in your APM syllabus. Could you describe what radio frequency ID tags are? Sure you can. These are devices, part of a system, a physical device that is affixed to something. It can be a sticker, it can be a tag. Radio frequency ID tags tell us where things are, what things are. However, describing is not the same as evaluating. Consider the requirement, evaluate the usefulness of a RFID system for a hospital. Well, we could say radio frequency ID tags will improve the quality of the hospital because doctors won't waste time searching for medical equipment. They will be able to find equipment using the system, spending more time on patients rather than looking for equipment. Look at that, I evaluated. And what made it different from describing? Well, first of all, evaluation requires a structure. When I'm evaluating something, I'm going to go through positive aspects, I'm going to go through negative aspects, and I'm going to do an overall comment, okay? So that's an APM tip. Structure your evaluation, pros, cons, overall. Now, when you are evaluating, make your point. Something is good, something is helpful, something is bad, something is a disadvantage, and then you use a special word, because, a conjunction, a linking word. If you practice saying because throughout your answer, you will force yourself to link to the story. You will then be finding evidence to support your argument, okay? So, look at that. We're picking up valuable information here, just looking right out of the gate in this examiner's report. Evaluating is different than describing. How do we evaluate? Structure your answer, make your point, justify your argument with evidence from the scenario. Make sure you say because. Guys, if you are resitting, go back to the last mock exam that you did or the last practice question that you did. Go through there. Find every argument that you made and see if you justified it with some evidence, okay? That's an area to improve. Okay, guys, so that's one thing to look at here in the examiner's report. Another thing we can pick up, oh, look at this, okay? Look at this one. Candidates needed to explain the use of league tables in measuring performance for a police department. Okay, however, many people gave generic pros and cons, right? Giving memorized material. Now, you can also learn in the examiner's report that memorized material will only get you 20 or 30%. So if your answer is not specifically tailored to a police department and to the circumstances of this police department, you're not going to get marks. Okay, so another exam technique tip: avoid being generic. Be specific. Link to the scenario. This examiner's report is full of awesome advice. Your homework, friends, I'm giving you homework, that's right. Print out the examiner's report. Yes, I know it's not the most environmentally friendly thing to do, but if you work on the examiner's report, you're more likely to pass. Therefore, you're less likely to need to print out reams and reams of preparation material. So maybe you're doing the environment a favor by printing this out, okay? Print out the examiner's report, get out a highlighter, book 45 minutes, carefully go through it, and I would like you to record all of the things to do, all of the things not to do. And if you are resitting at the bottom of this page, I would like you to make a special place. What I will do differently. What I will change in my approach. Because if you are resitting, something is not working. Reflect on that, figure out what you're going to change. And I bet you something in the examiner's report will help you along those lines. Let's now turn our discussion to practical advice, how to earn marks. These are tips that I have picked up from the examiner's report. Okay. Now, I've got the practice platform. I'm going to show you how to do these things in the computer-based exam environment, but it's the same for paper-based people. It's just using a different tool. Okay. And at the end, I'll summarize some of the differences. Now, if you are new to the computer-based exams at the professional level, you must check out our video on exam technique for APM. It's a half-an-hour video only on exam technique for this CBE environment. Check the link on the screen right now. Take a picture with your phone. After this webinar, you can go follow the link and you can learn all about CBE exam technique. One thing we'll talk about is organizing your work. You have a lot of exhibits to manage, okay, to read and manage. So work with a standard approach, a standard parking place. I recommend you keep your exhibits here on the left. You can resize them, you close them, they pop open where you leave them. And then your response option, you park here on the right side of your screen. So practice this, rehearse this. Now, I'm in question 1. Question 1 is a beast. Question 1, possibly the most difficult part of this in section A. So I suggest that you start in section A. You know the time management rule, 1.8 minutes per mark. So you're going to spend an hour and a half on this question 1. Let's talk about earning marks. An easy way to earn marks, as recommended by the examiner's reports, is to structure your answer. This helps you in two ways. One, it's going to help you get professional marks, and I'll talk more about that shortly. Secondly, it also ensures you answer the precise question that is asked. Let me show you how to do that. So what you're going to do, open up the word processor, open up the requirements, copy paste the requirements right into your word processing response. When they come in, they need a little cleanup because the line breaks don't come in. So you just put your cursor there, hit return twice. Okay. There you go. Leave it like that for the time being. And leave the marks there as well. The marks will tell you, 1, how much time to spend. 1 mark, roughly 1.8 minutes. So that gives you an indication per requirement, how much time to spend. And they also give you guidance on how many ideas to generate. So 16 marks, you need 8 ideas for a pass. 12 would be rather safe. And an idea, okay, that's going to be 2 or 3 sentences linked to the scenario, answering the precise question that is asked. Now, the next thing to do is to go into the exhibits, and each exhibit, besides the organizational information, will have what are called embedded requirements. When you read this, you're going to learn that the Minister of the Interior is not happy with some critical success factors, so she has made some changes. And you are asked to do some specific things. So you find the specific guidance and you copy paste it right in. Okay, so I'm coming into here, and the copy pasting can be a little bit clunky, a little bit awkward. Sometimes it grabs more than you want, so just practice with it. So I'm grabbing this, and I'm going to do a Control-C and a Control-V for paste, just like Windows, just like your friends. So he wants you to provide justifications in light of the minister's concerns for the changes. Then provide justified recommendations. 2 KPIs per critical success factor. So again, clean up a little bit. So we know we're looking for justified recommendations of 2 KPIs. So we can take that off. There we go. That's the second thing to do. The first thing to do, okay, justifications for the changes. Okay, look at that. Now I've got subheadings within my requirement. And I can take that even further. Now that I see what I need to do, I can come back here and we're talking about these critical success factors. Why were they changed? So why not just copy paste these as well? Copy. Paste. Let's break out these updated critical success factors: greater protection, more support, be better at catching criminals, reducing the cause of crime, creating the task force for the virtual crime. Now, because we're doing 2 things per critical success factor, just do a copy. Just do a paste, okay, under each. Copy. Paste. Paste. And the last one is good. So yes, it's looking a little bit cluttered. So now we can use Control-B to give our answer some more clarity, some structure. And now we see we have 2 things to do under each critical success factor. So look at this. My answer is coming together. Yes, it takes a little bit of time up front to do this, but it's worth it. Now we can get busy answering the question. Okay. And the first part is to give justifications for the change. We're going to use a writing style as if we were at work writing a message to a friendly colleague. So look at this. Adding the phrase, greater protection, is more specific and in line with the instructions from the minister who asked us to improve performance. So by adding the word greater protection, more support, that shows positive change, not accepting the status quo. Okay, friends, that's really the best that we can do in the exam conditions. Time pressure, we just learned about this organization. We just learned about the wishes of the minister. So that's a reasonable answer. Don't see why that wouldn't get a mark. Okay, now we need to come up with 2 justified KPIs. And because there are 2 parts to the changed critical success factor, why not use 1 KPI for each part? Okay, so friends, so I thought of 1 KPI that can help us measure if we're giving greater protection, and that would be the change in the number of victims of violent crime. So the DLAND police can measure the number of violent crimes per year per at-risk group and then monitor the change over time to show trends. This will help police and even social workers who can use this information to identify and then provide more support for the most at-risk groups helping society. Okay, so I've done my best to justify my choice of KPI using the story to help me talking about police departments and the specifics of this scenario, right? The at-risk groups. Again, that's about the best I can do in the exam environment. Now, greater support. Maybe I can't think of something immediately. That's okay. Leave it and keep it moving. Don't stop. If you're stuck, go to the next part. Okay? Okay, team. I'm going to leave it there. That's a demonstration of how to copy-paste your requirements to ensure that you answer the precise question that is asked, to give your answer a structure with headings and subheadings. If you'd like to see more of this, please follow the link that's on the screen now, and you can see my full write-up for this requirement right here. Let's talk about getting the 4 easiest marks in the exam. Those would be the professional marks. Okay. Now, let me show you exactly what to do. Professional marks can come from 4 places. Professional marks will come from giving report headings as they are asking you to write a report. A professional mark will come from giving a clear introduction. A professional mark will come from grouping your ideas with headings and subheadings, putting pros together, putting cons together. And then you also get a professional mark for concise, clear writing in a professional sense. Imagine you're writing an email to a colleague at work. Okay, they won't judge you on your spelling or your grammar. And don't make mistakes like repeating yourself or giving long academic definitions and giving background on models. That's not very professional. That's not answering the question asked. Okay, so if you can do those 4 things, you can get 4 professional marks. Now, there is also potentially a professional mark for giving a conclusion. You could get a mark for that. Okay, but there, even if you didn't do that, you could find 4 marks. Let me demonstrate exactly what to do. And there's no reason you couldn't start off with this. So let's do a report header. Okay, those are the report headers that are being referred to in the examiner's report. Now, go very light on the formatting. There are no marks for formatting, guys. So you really just need all caps, bold, and maybe a little underline, okay, to show 2 levels, okay, 2 document levels in your structure. Okay, so do that to get your first professional mark. Then you can do an introduction. And you don't need to do the introduction at the beginning. Maybe you come back and do the introduction after you have written the body of the report. Then you know what you've said, and it will be the introduction will flow from your fingers more easily. But if you do that, put a note to yourself. Okay, just put a quick note to yourself, okay, so you don't forget to do that. And maybe it will look something like this. So obviously I do not type that fast. I just sped up the typing to save your precious time watching this video. Now, notice I've used full sentences. I'm using 1 sentence for each of the requirements. This report will review the critical success factors and KPIs for the DP for alignment with the 4 critical performance areas. Value for money of DP will also be reviewed, etc., etc. It does not have to be this perfect. Try your best. Full sentences. Hit the main areas of the requirements, and you should get your professional mark. Don't take a shortcut and use bullet points and fragments, because that was criticized in a previous examiner's report where people who used that approach did not get the mark. Don't forget time management here. You have 4 marks for the professional marks. That turns into time, 1.8 minutes. So there's no reason not to put a little effort into this, because you do have the time allowed. Guys, there you have it, professional marks. Team, let's now move to the PDF version of the exam, just because it will be easier for me to demonstrate things. I want to take you through a couple of more areas where you can earn marks. And I'd like to come back to the examiner's comment that evaluating something is not the same as describing something. And for that, I would like to go to question 2 in this exam. This is in section B. Remember, time management. You'll give 1.5 hours to section A, 1.5 hours to section B. Make sure you evaluate the 2 questions and take the one that looks the easiest to you based on the requirements that you see. If you see a friendly requirement, so go for that first. Now, I'm in question 2, and of course in the computer-based exam, these different paragraphs will be structured as exhibits that you open. And have a look at part B. The verb everyone is evaluate. So you will highlight that if you're on paper. I'd also like you then to copy paste that into your requirement area. We're evaluating the introduction of an IT system. Okay, these are usually pretty straightforward to answer. Make sure you do a good job on this. You're going to find difficult requirements. You're going to find easier requirements. When you find the easier one, make sure you maximize your marks. Okay? So when you evaluate, you are casting judgment. You are saying if something is good or if something is bad, in order to do that, you need to build a logical argument. You need to use the evidence from the scenario. So when you are evaluating the introduction of the ERP into the company, and there's actually two entities, right, in the overall business, you need a structure. You will use one heading, the pros. You will use a heading, cons, and then you will have a final overall comment. Okay? So we know the structure. Now we have 10 marks. So if we can come up with 7 or 8 ideas, that's more than enough to get a pass. Come through the scenario, find the problems that could be solved by the Enterprise Resource Planning System. Guys, that is how you deal with evaluation in APM. Let's look at another area where we can earn marks, and that is dealing effectively with the performance management models. Now, in APM, models are a big part of the syllabus. We have corporate failure models. We have alternative performance measurement models. We have models for strategic planning and control. And right here in this exam, we are looking at the McKinsey 7S model, the least commonly examined model, but nevertheless, it came up. Now, a nice change that I've observed in recent years is the examining team are giving you a diagram of the model. And they specifically say in the examiner's report, because of this, you don't need to do big definitions on the background of the models and describing the structure of the models. Okay, so take the hint. When they give you the model, go light on the definition. Just jump right in and start using the model in the way they have asked. Okay, so using the soft elements, evaluate whether they are properly aligned, whether the two entities are properly aligned. Once again, evaluate, there's that verb. It's not describe the model. It's make a judgment. Are they aligned? Yes or no? Why or why not? Now, they tell you which are the soft elements. What do you do with a model? Guys, the model is used as a structuring device. So, in this case, we will have 4 headings plus an overall. That is 5 headings. 15 marks divided by 5, so roughly, possibly 3 marks per heading, maybe only 1 for the overall, but it's a good starting place to think about how much you need to write, how many ideas you need to generate. And then it's just a matter of organizing your ideas under these headings of the model. So if we're talking about skills, do the employees in the 2 different companies have the same competencies? Do they receive the same kinds of training? How about rewards? How about levels of responsibility? How about the culture of the 2 organizations? Do they work together well? Do they work together poorly? Are there conflicts under these areas? Okay, guys, that's how you use a model. Structure, group your ideas under the headings. Don't forget to use the model precisely as you are asked, evaluating if the companies are aligned. Okay. Friends, at this point, I'd like to recap some of the ideas that I've shared with you over this webinar to this point. Professional marks. 4 is almost 5. 5 is 10% of passing. So almost 10% of passing comes from the professional marks. Do what the examiner says and get the easy marks. Report heading, introduction, headings, subheadings to group your ideas. Write with a succinct, clear, professional style, referencing the scenario. Structure your answer to ensure you answer the question that is asked. Copy-paste in the requirements and find the embedded requirements so you do exactly what the CEO says. Nothing more, nothing less. Avoid unsupported assertions when you are evaluating and assessing. Be specific, be justified, use the linking word because. That will force you to finish your argument linking to the scenario. Use the models effectively. Ineffective use of the model would be giving a long-winded academic definition, giving historical background on the models. Skip that. Do what is asked. Use the models as structuring tools. Organize your ideas under the headings of the model. And again, do what is asked to do with the model. Memorized material will only get you to 30%. You need to tailor your answer to the conditions of the organization in question. One way you can do that, if you find yourself stuck, imagine that you work there. Does your answer help management? It is the quality of your answer, not the quantity, that will get you to 50 marks. Don't feel like you have to answer 2 full script booklets or type ferociously for 3 hours, 15 minutes. Organize your thoughts. Structure your answers. Be succinct. Answer the question that is asked. In these final weeks before the exam, please take a little bit of time, do some research, and find some real-world examples of the issues that you discover in the past exam questions. This will help you broaden your perspective, and it will help you answer these difficult questions from a commercial perspective rather than an academic perspective. Let's now move to the question and answer part of our webinar. The first question is from someone who is resitting. I've failed several times at 47 and 48 marks. What should I do? Well, I'd like to let you know that I was in your boat as well when I was a student. I was stuck at financial reporting. I failed, I think, 3 times, again, at a borderline fail. And so I feel your pain. Stay positive. Put the past in the past. Focus on what you are going to change. And most often, for people who are at marginal fails, it is an exam technique problem, not a knowledge problem. I suggest that you invest in a mock exam exercise with one of the approved publishers. There are many online options. So sit a mock exam, get it marked by an expert tutor, get feedback on what you're doing wrong. In my experience, there are 3 things to fix when you find yourself stuck at a 47 or a 48. The first thing are the unsupported assertions that I spoke about earlier. Make sure you are justifying every argument that you make. And sometimes I think we feel like, oh, we don't have to state the obvious. It's obvious that EVA is positive and that will increase shareholder wealth. No, you need to tell the marker why, and you need to say because. Okay, explain your reasoning. Another problem to consider fixing is not answering the question asked. Are you identifying the verbs in the requests from the CEOs in the embedded requirements? Are you doing precisely exactly what they ask for? And how about time management? Do you find yourself running out of time, not finishing the third question? Well, you need to be brutal with your time management. What's the best way to use my time in these last weeks? Well, you should be into the past exam questions now. You should have your hands on a revision kit from the approved learning providers. Yes, you can use the past exams right off the website or from your friends, but remember the syllabus can change and the exam style has changed in recent years. So you don't rely only on the old exams. You're going to see requirements like, use the performance prism to evaluate the performance report. Well, you'll panic and you'll study that and you'll look it up, but that's not in the syllabus anymore. Or you'll look up beyond budgeting and you'll put a lot of effort into revising topics like that are no longer in the syllabus. Okay, so be smart, use a revision kit from the approved publisher. Make a study plan is a wonderful thing to do. Book out your free time and make sure that you use it effectively. You should be doing one past exam question per day at least, and then some more on the weekends. A good way to use a past exam question is to make an answer plan. What are your headings and subheadings going to be? Then you can mind map out what ideas you will develop. And then you don't have to write up the whole question. You could write up 3 marks. Compare your ideas with the ideas you find in the model solution and see if you're in the same ballpark as the examining team for what ideas they are looking for. Remember, you don't have to produce the same volume of words that you see in the model solution. Model solutions are there. That's kind of the platonic form of a perfect answer, not really achievable in the exam conditions. So, practice exam questions, make a study guide, learn by doing in these last weeks. Here's an interesting question. Many people are worried about their typing skills. How many words per minute do you need to be able to type to pass? Well, you do need to have a proficiency at typing, unfortunately. Well, if you want to become a professional in business, you're going to need that proficiency anyway. So it's not like it's an APM thing. It's a professional thing, being able to type. Okay. Now, a professional typist who gets paid for typing things does 80 words per minute. Okay. A reasonably competent university student who can express themselves does about 40 words per minute. Okay. So I would say you should be able to get your thoughts onto the computer screen relatively efficiently, and 30, 40 words per minute might be a good place to be at. If you find that you are not being able to complete questions because of your typing speed, well, that's a problem. So practice typing if it's a problem for you on typing.com, and you can build up your typing speed in no time. What are the tricky topics? Well, good question. Many of the topics are rather straightforward. How about balanced scorecard? You've been doing that topic since your MA days. How about the 5 forces model? Well, that overlaps with SBL. That's not too bad. Value chain. Not too bad. How about the basic financial ratios? Return on capital employed, residual income. Not too bad. Well, there are some tricky topics you need to make sure you put an effort into. Make sure you can do EVA, economic value added. That comes up regularly. That's a new topic. That is a tricky topic. Transfer pricing is also a tricky one. Not examined as often as economic value added, but the scenarios on transfer pricing can be difficult. You need to find the conflicts. You need to be able to evaluate a transfer pricing policy. Know the new IT topics. Now, these aren't necessarily tricky, but they're new, okay? Do you know CRM? Make sure you review planning and operating variances. Those come up occasionally, not the easiest of topics. Make sure you know all of the different types of budgeting. Can you evaluate an approach to budgeting? Can you talk about a rolling budget? How about activity-based budgeting? How about zero-based budgeting in the syllabus? Not commonly examined, but you need to know it. Make sure you have a broad understanding of the syllabus. That's important on this paper. How do you know if you need to use the spreadsheet tool? Well, there are a couple of clues to let you know if you should use the spreadsheet. The first one, the verb, right? If the verb is calculate, spreadsheet is a good place for calculating economic value added or other ratios. If the question is about benchmarking performance, probably there's a lot of numbers there that you need to use. The spreadsheet's going to help you do that. When you are evaluating performance, again, and they give you numbers, spreadsheet is helpful. A very important clue. If the appendix is in spreadsheet form, use the spreadsheet tool to do the math because you can copy paste, okay? If I got the exemption for performance management, what should I review? Well, you need to get busy because the exam is in 2 weeks and some days. So if you haven't already, make sure you urgently review activity-based costing, target costing, environmental management accounting. Those are covered in PM, and they are also examined in APM. Activity-based costing, you could get a big question on that. Okay. How about budgeting? I mentioned that earlier, but you need to know all of your budgeting types except for beyond budgeting, which would not be examined directly. But if it were relevant, you could talk about the principles of beyond budgeting. Make sure you can do an activity-based budget. That was examined. How about a rolling budget? As I mentioned, make sure you review your planning and operational variances. And in order to do that, you need to also review some of the basic variances. How about the direct materials, direct labor variances? The sales variances are important to review. Don't forget your ratios, performance measurements. What topics do I think will come up? Well, that's a dangerous question. It's a dangerous way to approach this exam. I do not have a crystal ball. I cannot tell you, but I can tell you that the examining team has recommended you have a broad awareness of the syllabus rather than specific knowledge of only a couple of areas. So study the syllabus from a holistic point of view. Go around each syllabus area. Make sure you are familiar with all of the topics. That being said, you know that syllabus area E is examined in section B. There's only 2 things in there. There's corporate failure and alternative performance management models. So make sure you study syllabus area E. How about the usual suspects that we find in question 1? Evaluating a performance report, evaluating KPIs, balanced scorecard. Okay, so definitely practice the past exam questions and be sure that you can handle the regularly examined topics as well as studying the syllabus from a holistic point of view. Team, we've come to the end of our webinar. I had a nice time working with you, and I hope you found some useful information that you will apply to your APM exam coming up in a couple of weeks. Those of you who are resitting, once again, I ask you, what are you going to do differently this time to make sure you get a pass? Guys, this is Steve signing out. Best of luck and stay safe. And goodbye for now.